Southwind Spotlight featuring Max Smits.
All right, everyone, go ahead and crack your Red Bulls now because we're going for a ride. If I were to ask you a question, it's a question I get asked the most, and it's, how old are you? And that's the question I get asked all the time. Somebody's always asking me, how old are you? You're in this position already. And if you guys don't know the answer, it's 21, by the way. I'm 21 years old, and the cool thing about Southwind is that no matter what background, no matter what age you have, it doesn't matter what that is and where you came from. All that matters is what you do next. And they really instill that belief that anything is possible. And through that, Southwind has allowed me to believe that anything really is possible. And I've accomplished a lot in the last 3 years that I thought would take me over a decade. And Southwind's made that possible, and not always, somebody hasn't always been there to pour into me and realize and see my potential. And I think back to my days playing competitive baseball, and I was always I wasn't necessarily the best player, but I was always more of a coach. I could see things that people were doing. Now, I couldn't do those things and make the corrections myself every single time, but one thing I was able to do is see that and tell that person that they were not doing it the way they could be doing it better. And no one outside of my family was ever really able to see my potential as a leader and see my potential as a person to help give advice. And until I came to Southwind, that's really when I was able to be poured into and really able to take advantage of my potential. And in the next couple of minutes, I want to walk through a story, which is my story, and kind of hopefully you guys are able to take away something either to your team or to your personal life that you're going to be able to use and advance yourself, hopefully in the way that I've kind of advanced myself. But what you may not know is my story. This was never the original plan. I didn't ever plan to be up here. I didn't plan to be in Southwind. I didn't plan to actually even be working right now. I would have planned to be graduating high school. But the best place to start for my story is at the beginning. That's just the most logical place to start the story, and actually before the beginning. And I find myself telling a story about my parents a lot. My parents were just married, mid-'80s, trying for kids, and they had a lot of complications. Over and over again, they had complications trying for kids and having actual kids. And the doctor came up and told them, hey, you're never, ever going to have children. Like, it's impossible. You can't do it. And my parents probably scoffed at him at the time. They're big believers in God, so they didn't believe that guy. The expert told them no. And they then again tried, and they had 14 miscarriages. 14 miscarriages. They lost 14 babies. And then they went on to have 4 children. 1 beautiful, that's me, and 3 other not so beautiful. They went on to have those children, all of us, and regardless of what the experts said, they believed anything was possible. And they're the first ones in my life to actually believe that anything really is possible, because not only did they stop at 1, not only did they stop at twice, when they hit 10 miscarriages, they didn't stop trying for children. They kept going. And they did believe it was possible to have a child on top of 3 additional children. And that's really where the first instinct of my life, I think about that story, and it's, man, I'm lucky to be here. The chances of me being here are like 1 in a trillion right now. To be in my body, standing in front of you guys, the chances are pretty low. So I attack life with a mindset of I'm very grateful to be here, and I take advantage of every day as a gift, and I don't want to stay complacent. Those are kind of my life goals, and what keeps me driving is I don't want to stay complacent, and I'm extremely grateful for every opportunity I'm given. And, you fast forward another 10 years after my parents have kids. I'm about 10 or 11 years old. Have a great childhood. I couldn't complain. I was probably upper middle class. I probably had a lot better childhood than most people that I know. And I got everything I wanted. My dad had a job. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I had great brothers. And it happened to be the case that my dad lost his job. And things dramatically changed for our family. We were no longer high income. We were bottom of the barrel, and we had to move back into my grandma's house. And the amount of pride that was swallowed by my dad is an enormous amount of pride. And it really showed me and my brothers what people who love you and care about you will do to dedicate themselves to you and to really put forward everything, put aside everything they know and love, and really take care of you. And I think that's where a lot of my grit and character has come from, and my appreciation for the things I have and the things I did have. Going forward from that, that's what built me. My dad might say different, but I am appreciative for that, and I wouldn't change the fact that he lost his job and lost his home, and we had to go there, because I wouldn't be the same person that I am. I wouldn't be standing in front of you guys today talking right now if that wouldn't happen. I firmly believe that. And we jump forward. I don't want to bore you with every single year of my life, but we jump forward to end of high school. 2020, it was COVID year, so I got cut off. I didn't get to play my senior year of baseball. I didn't get to finish my academics, but my plans remained the same. I still wanted to go to college. Given the circumstances I had, I was not able to do that through my parents' funding as much as they wanted to. I had to go find a job of my own. So I looked for a seasonal job. I applied to maybe 50, 75 jobs on Indeed in one day, and the first people that were to call me back in the first day was this little place called You Move Me. And I talked to a guy named Jeff Scott. He's in the room today. He hit me up and called me right away, probably an hour or two after I applied. They were the only company to call me back the very first day of applying. And he said, hey, I want you to come in for an interview. I want to talk to you. We'd love to get you in this job and get you going, even though you're seasonal. I was like, awesome. Let me move some things around, and I'll call you back. I'm sure everyone has heard that one from either a customer or an employee before. Yeah, let me call you back. But I said, yeah, I'll call you back. And I went to go tell my wife, my girlfriend at the time, hey, I got somebody that called me for a job. Like, I can have a job, but I don't know if I really want to do it. I don't really think I want to move furniture. And she said, you should probably go do it. And there's a lesson for everyone to take away from this. Don't say no to your wife. Take all the advice you can get from her. But other than that, another thing she taught me was, she told me, and I reminisce on this a lot, is she told me, hey, they called you first because they actually care about you. And they're actually going to be the ones to pour into me, and that rings true to this day. And she's never steered me wrong. She's never lied, and she's been my rock through it all. I can't tell you I would be standing here today, because I would have never gone to that interview. I would have never talked to Jeff Scott, and I would have never gone to day one in orientation if my wife wouldn't have pushed me and told me, you should go to that interview. And that just I wouldn't be in this spot today. So I move forward, and I go to day one orientation. I walked in, and it felt good. Like, I felt good to be there, because people liked me. People greeted me when I came in, and I felt like I was the only employee to ever work at You Move Me, and the only employee they ever needed in the room. The orientation felt oriented around me and not just oriented around the process of getting me the job. And that's really what kept me coming back. My first day was a 14-hour day, and it was a long day. And that's what kept me coming back, is these guys care about me. Like, I want to come back and do work for them because they actually care about me. And I got to meet people like Marlon, like Chris, people that all talk to you today, Walter, Jeff. All these people I got to meet on my first day that I had no idea who they were, but there's definitely a correlation to the people I met on my first day and me standing up here on the stage right now talking to each and every one of you guys, because they are all still here and in really good spots in their life, whether it's running a business or helping Southwind grow. Regardless of what it is, there's a correlation to me meeting them on the first day and me being standing here right in front of you right now. 6 months forward, we jump ahead another 6 months, and I'm doing my thing, moving furniture, still seasonal, still planning to go back to college. But I start to think to myself, hey, there's one thing I realized right at that 6-month mark, and I swear it was almost exactly at 6 months. I started to think, as long as I just say yes, Like, these people take care of me. No matter what it is, if I always say yes, these people will take care of me on the back end, on the front end, whatever it may be, outside of work, inside of work, get me off at a certain time. If I never needed a check advance, but if I needed one, I guarantee you I could go to someone and I could get something from them or some sort of advice to help me out. And I realized that, and I started to think, hey, I can grow here, and I'm seasonal. They know I'm not sticking around, but yet they're still pouring into me and still dedicating themselves to me. And I thought, well, do I want to pay $500 a month to college, or do I want to get $1,500 a month from this place? And that was really a main point. I was like, hey, let's grow. Let's move forward. I want to take the $1,500. I chose the latter. So I kept working, and I distinctly remember sending a text to Marlon, and it was a long text. He probably got it and was like, wow, this is annoying, because it was late. But it was a long text, and I was trying to be professional and tell him, hey, this is where I'm at. I was trying to use all these big words. Like, if I had AI, I would have put it in AI back then. But I sent Marlon a text and told him, hey, I want to be full-time. I don't want to stay complacent. I want to be a crew lead. And his response was, awesome, we'll get you in, like, right away. Like, there was no questions asked. Regardless of my age, regardless of what I've done, they knew what I had done, and what I was doing next was asking Marlon to be a crew lead. And that's really what mattered to them, and that's what pushed me into that spot. And as I became a crew lead, I kept realizing that this place feeds you when you need to get fed. You get fed when you're hungry. And there's a lot of leaders that I could look at and think, this guy poured into me, this guy poured into me. Everyone at Southwind, almost every person I've come in contact, even in this room if I've talked to you, you've given me some sort of advice, some sort of way to extend my life and make it better than the way I thought it was coming into the conversation. And I got to give props to everyone, but if there was one person I had to really give, a mentorship, like, appreciation to, it had to be Chris Eustace. And Chris Eustace is here today, and I really appreciate him because from day one, I saw him on day one to training me the basics of moving, how to wrap a chair, how to wrap a dresser, all the way how to be a crew lead, how to be an operations manager, how to be a great leader and really take care of your guys and understand what they're saying and what they need from you. Chris was there to teach me. Whether it's a 6-man, we were going with 3, or 2 guys going with 2. That's a true story. We went to a 6-man with 3 guys. We were out late, but we got it done. And Chris was always a leader side by side. He would make sure that he was level-headed and took care of everyone on his crew in the day. And I really do appreciate him for that, checking on me inside and outside of work and really leading me and mentoring me in that way. And I think that's really special to have someone that sees that potential, because I recall back to day one of working with Chris, and all I remember was hearing that Chris Eustace is a hard ass. And true or not, I'll put that aside, but all I remember is he was like, come on, let's go. And I was like, all right, let's go. And all I remember is all I had to do was my best. All I had to do was my very best, and Chris saw that potential in me, and he poured into it, and he dedicated his time, his service to me. He made sure that I was taken care of all the time. I was always on his routes, and he did that for me because he saw my potential. And nobody else had ever seen my potential like that before and really poured into me, and without him, I wouldn't be here in front of you guys today. So I really do appreciate that. Another person that comes to mind when I think about opportunity is Coach Sims, right down here in the front row. I was walking through his office one day, and he actually asked me, hey, do you want to be an operations manager? And I said, I know we aren't supposed to use a manager word anymore, but that was the terms at the time. I said, yeah, absolutely. And I was just a crew lead at the time, like 7 months, 8 months. And he was like, awesome, you'll start next week. And you talk about Southwind speed. That's what it is. I didn't know anything about operations. I didn't know anything about the business. And that's just what happened. He put me in that spot, and I wouldn't have had that chance to lead that big of a business and get in front of people and talk to people if it wasn't for him. And I do appreciate that. And the last thing is the environment of Southwind. I really appreciate the environment of Southwind just because it allows you and your mentors to grow at the same time, and everybody has a different path. And they really instill in you the belief that anything is possible because the way it's set up. Chris was able to go out to St. Louis, and I was still able to grow here in Kansas City while Chris was growing himself. all the leaders are able to have their own path and do their own thing, while their guys before them are able to do what they have to do to grow as well. And that's the environment Southwind has created and always allowed us to grow. And now I understand what Southwind is all about. Now I understand how great leaders create leaders. And now I understand that really anything is possible, and they'll go back and forth. No, anything is possible. If you don't believe it, go ask my parents. If you don't believe it, ask Marlon, because I don't know if he ever thought he was going to get sent out. And then Sims came along and sent him to Cincinnati. So, to sum it all up, my life looks a lot different than I thought it would at 21. I didn't think I'd have a house. I didn't think I'd have a wife. I didn't think I'd have a job as running a huge business. And I didn't think I'd have a baby boy on the way, which I do. Thank you. And I really do understand what Southwind can do for people, and I understand that the ability to create belief and dedicating your time and your service to someone can take them from a seasonal employee to a experienced leader running a business. And sometimes the lesson that I learned from my story is sometimes the future is closer than you think it really is. And it's staring you right in the face, right in front of you. And all you have to do is go out and grab it. And Southwind's people that have dedicated their time to me, dedicated their service to me, and the environment Southwind has created allowed me to reach out and grab my future that was staring me in the face right in front of me. So that's kind of my story. Hopefully you took something away from it, and I appreciate you guys for listening to me.